IELTS Reading Module Part 2. Now we are going to review our true, false, and not given type of questions. A lot of times they are one of the most challenging type of questions for a lot of students, and students get confused while completing this type of task. When you have this type of task, true, false, and not given question, you will be given statement. The main thing you have to do during this task is to scan the passage for words that match the keywords in the statement. The statements may be a paraphrase of similar statements in the passage. And if there is no similar statements in the passage, your answer will be not given. The most important tip here to remember is to pay attention to adjectives and adverbs. We also call them modifiers. Also, it's very important to remember that modifier in a question may be the opposite of the modifier in the passage. When you have true, false, and not given type of task in the IELTS exam, you'll be asked the following question. Do the following statements agree with the information given in the passage? In boxes 1 through 4 on your answer sheet, write. So here we have important 3 points, and as you remember, you'll be given different statements. Sometimes you might have 5 statements, sometimes it can be 3, and it can vary depending on the task. So for example, when your statement agrees with the information in the passage, your answer will be true. If the statement contradicts with the information in the passage, your response will be false. And if you cannot find any information, just like on your statement, the response will be not given. So we have a paragraph in here and we have 3 different statements. So what we need to find out if these statements are true, false, or not given. So let's try to do at least one of them. And let's do number 4. So several of the volcanoes on the Hawaiian island are still active. So what you need to do in this case, go back to your passage. So you try to highlight or circle some words that have Hawaii or Hawaiian islands, and then start reading these sentences. I actually read this short paragraph and I couldn't find this information whatsoever. I saw some information about Hawaiian islands, but I haven't seen anything about active volcanoes. So that is why my number 4 is going to be not given. Next one I have, it's number 5. So number 5 states the following. There are a total of 8 islands in the Hawaiian island chain. So in this case, it states the following, total of 8 islands. So, and I found that information in the second sentence, so I'm starting to read. The chain consists of 8 major islands, the largest being the island of Hawaii, as well as some 120 smaller islands in the islets. Sorry. So that is going to be false because I see 8 and I see 8 islands in here too. However, in your statement, it says there are a total of 8 islands. However, if you go back to your second sentence, it says there are 8 major islands and plus 120 smaller islands. So that's why our number 5 is going to be false, because it's definitely more than 8. It's not a total 8 because we have 8 islands plus major 8 islands and plus small 124 islands. And the last one, the last statement we have is about Captain Cook. Let's see. Captain Cook names the islands after his financial backer. So in this case, you would have to find the name Captain Cook, and I see it here. So you are going to start reading. This was a name given to them by Captain Cook when he first visited the area in 1778. He calls them this in honor of the Earl of Sandwich, who had provided the financial backing for Cook's expeditions. So, and looks like this is a correct answer, so that's going to be true. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. So when you have this kind of task, true, false, not given, keep in mind you have different statements and you have to make sure to go back and read these your passage and identify similar information. So pay attention to your modifiers most importantly, because they can change a meaning completely. However, information can be very similar to what you see in your statement. Alright guys, so that's what we have for our true, false, and ungiven questions. Now we are going to review our yes, no, and not given types of questions. A lot of times students get confused when they respond to yes, no, and not given, and to true, false, and ungiven types of questions. They might look the same and they might have very similar directions, however, they're quite different. So for example, when you have yes, no, not given questions, you have different statements. And you have to identify, your task is to identify whether your statements agree or disagree with the opinion of the author. So you'll be reading the passage with the author's opinion. He might agree about particular topic or he might disagree about it. So for example, when you have a statement, you read the statement, you go back to the passage, and you find the claim or you find the opinion where the author thinks the same, for example, then your answer will be yes. And if you have a statement and, for example, you go back to the passage and you find this, for example, opinion or view by the author that has a totally different opinion, then your answer will be no. And for example, if it's impossible to say what the writer thinks about the statement you have, then your answer will be not given. So just make sure when you write down your answers in the answer sheet, you do not write true, false, and not given instead of yes, no, not given, because that might be counted as a wrong answer. So you have to be very careful when you complete your answer sheet. So here we have one passage, one paragraph and 3 different statements. Let's review at least one of them to have a better idea how to complete this type of task. So for example, our first statement states the reported number of traffic accident deaths caused by cell phone use is much lower than the actual number. So this actually statement is going to be false, because if you read your sentences 2, 3, and 4, that's where the information is. It actually reports completely different. It shows a different opinion about it. So author is actually doesn't think so. And now I'm going for you to read it for you so you'll have a better idea why. So here we have statistics from 2009 show close to 1,000 people in the United States killed in traffic accidents where use of cell phone was reported as a factor in the accident. So here important sentence as well. Note that these numbers show only reported information. The number of traffic deaths caused by distracted drivers with cell phones is likely a good deal higher. So this is the opinion of the author. So he doesn't think so. He says that we need to know that this is only reported information and that the number of traffic deaths caused by distracted drivers actually is much higher than the reported number. And then what you have in your statement, it says that reported number of traffic accident deaths caused by cell phone use is much lower. So that is why our statement 1 is going to be false. So also, actually, I'm sorry guys, it's not a false, it's going to be no. So don't make the same mistake. It can be really confusing with a yes, no, and true and false. So when you'll be writing down your also answers, make sure you write no, yes, or not given, because if you're going to write down false, even though it's no, it's going to be a mistake. So I know I don't know why they make it so difficult, but that's how it is. So if you have yes, no, not given, so make sure you write down yes, no, not given, okay? And so here we have in our statement 1 is going to be no. So that will be our answer. And a very important point for you to remember when you're completing this type of task is to pay attention to your modifiers. So modifiers, for example, in our sentence, in our statement number 1 is reported number, much lower, actual. So these are very tricky words. So make sure you understand them very well. And then when you go back to your passage, you also circle modifiers, so that can help you stay very focused. Now we are going to have a recap about the most important things we studied during our today's lesson. As you remember, IELTS reading module consists of 3 passages. You will be given 60 minutes to complete all 3 of them and answer 40 questions. you won't have additional time to transfer your answers. So you have to make sure that you are writing down your answers in your answer sheet while reading your passages. Also remember, reading passages progress in difficulty. That means the first passage is the easiest and the last one is going to be the hardest. So spend your time wisely and leave what's difficult towards the end of your test. And also make sure that all parts of the answer agree with what is stated in the reading passage. That means when you have your statements and you go back to your passage and you are trying to find true, false, or not given type of questions, you have to make sure your statements, all of them, all parts of them, agree what's stated in the passage. And again, remember that successful IELTS reading test comprehension requires the ability to find question sentences within the text.